So welcome back to the Friday vlog series, where today I wanted to share with you the 5 big changes I made to my cycling in 2014 that enabled me, wait for the car, and another one, to take my cycling to the next level after being stuck on a performance plateau for years. So we're going to go through these 5 things pretty quickly up front, and then I'm going to sit down with you and give you some practical ways you could implement them into your cycling. But the first thing we're going to do here, I think it might surprise you. So the first big change I made is I learned how to have a rest week. I never used to take them, and I learned not only when to take them, but how to take them. And what might surprise you is this is a rest week for me this week, and I'm at the top of a hill climb called Gindia Drive, and I'm about to smash it up the hill as hard as I can in a rest week. Why is that? I'll explain later. All right, this is a PB attempt. I'll take this water bottle out, just leave it over there. That hurt. The second one, and I can't believe I used to do this, but most cyclists do, and understand why. Hear that? Free pedaling. Pressure off the crank. Because we're on wheels, we just stop pedaling. Consistent pressure on the crank in zone 2, especially at an aerobic level, is so critical. Number 3, that behind me there, that's a nasty little hill climb, and I never used to do high intensity interval training. So you need to find a hill or a local track or somewhere where you can get acquainted with it. You can go deep every single week, external to your rest week. So the 4th one, I've just got home. Hey mate, how are you? Hey Alice, you got an onion? Okay, the wife isn't here, but I did find an onion. Of course, the whippersnipper man just arrived. Not sure if you can hear him, but one thing I never used to do, I never used to add layers to my training. I just used to go out and ride hard pretty much every single time. And what you need to do is you need to start in the middle, start small, and you need to slowly add layer after layer, bit by bit, yeah? We're not going straight to the outer layer, we're just getting bigger and stronger and faster each and every week, layer upon layer. Now, would you believe I just dropped my Sony brand new, pretty much 2 months old, ZV-1 camera out riding just now. $1,200, I think pretty much down the drain. I've ruined the camera. Anyway, besides the point, the 5th one is, I definitely didn't do this one because you need to understand the 4 that I've just described to you, and that is tying those 4 things together in a structured manner. Now, before I share a practical guide that you can take away from this video to implement into your own road cycling, I want to emphasize that these 5 changes only came about because I stopped entrusting or investing in equipment to take my cycling to the next level. If you've watched the video on my channel page, you will know.
I bought a new bike. I bought a new bike. I bought a new bike. Got the snip. I bought a new bike. Another bike.
As you can see, I used to buy a lot of bikes, a lot of wheels, and I thought they were the items. They were the things that would help me take my cycling performance to the next level, but wrong. Investing into coaching with the great bloke and cycling coach Steggles from the Hurt Box in Melbourne way back in 2014 was easily the best investment I ever made for my cycling, despite the fact I thought that coaching was a little bit extreme for a B-grade amateur cyclist, but my paradigm has completely shifted now. I believe coaching is a really good investment for any road cyclist out there that's looking to improve. And I'm so passionate about this now that, as you know, I preach a lot of training principles on my YouTube channel, and I've also created an online course which I'm super passionate about called the Up-Level Road Cycling Course, which is really designed to empower people out there that are keen to take their cycling
to the next level with the same principles that were taught to me, using polarized and progressive overload techniques that enabled me to take my cycling performance to the next level way back in 2014. You see, way back in the day, I progressed to B grade in the local criterium scene quite quickly after taking up cycling in 2009 via triathlon. But there I stayed in B grade for 3 to 4 years, not looking like ever winning a race. Then I implemented these strategies or methods that I'm about to share with you, and all of a sudden I went from middle of the pack to standing on podiums, then to winning races. And I ended up becoming competitive in A grade, which I never thought would happen to me. And hopefully one day I can win that A grade race, despite the fact I'm very quickly approaching 40, it's still a bucket list item. So what I'm going to do with you here, so it's easy to absorb, is I'm going to explain to you what I do for each of these 5 sections, but just know it doesn't have to be exactly what I do, it's just the general framework that you want to take away. So let's move to easy weeks. When I'm training consistently, I will have a rest week every 3rd week. Some people may have a rest week every 4th, and other people may have a rest week every 5th week. It's whatever really works for you after you start to listen to your body. But as a bloke who's getting a bit older, I like to ensure that I'm freshened up, ready to tackle those high intensity interval training sessions. So I find a rest week every 3 weeks works for me. And I also need to emphasize that the rest week is where you absorb fitness adaptations, where you have accumulated fatigue over a period of time and you can start to absorb those adaptations. And that's really where you start to take your cycling performance to the next level. The other thing regarding rest weeks is during a rest week, I will go hit up a local comm challenge or I'll do another FTP test. Either way, we're using fresh legs to test ourselves, to benchmark ourselves to see if we're progressively improving. Number 2 is constant and consistent pressure on the cranks. I always have pressure on the cranks when working my training zones. No free pedaling unless resting between high intensity interval training efforts. Or of course, if it's safety related, traffic lights, turning, etc. Consistent constant pressure on the cranks, particularly at an aerobic level, helps build exceptional muscular endurance. A lot of people say to me, zone 2 feels too easy, even though I believe it's the optimal aerobic training zone. So I say to them, these are the people that I coach, people I work with in the up-level road cycling course, go out and ride for 2 hours, consistent pressure on the cranks, focus on consistent pressure. Or on the trainer, sit on the trainer for 1 hour in zone 2, just pedal, do not free pedal at all. And typically they're surprised with how much fatigue they feel from that particular session. Number 3 is implementing high intensity interval training sessions into your weeks. I will typically do 2 high intensity interval training sessions a week aligned to the target event needs. For example, if I'm criterium racing, I will focus on 1 minute on, 1 minute off efforts in my zones 5 and 6, and I'll also do sprint sessions at the track, working my neuromuscular system. I will normally keep 1 session for general high intensity, notably a bunch ride because I like them, and I will ensure I have easier days either side the high intensity to ensure my body can best absorb fitness adaptations. Number 4 is a layered approach or progressive overload techniques. When completing base training or high intensity rides, for base training, gradually week to week, I will add time to my base training rides. For high intensity interval training, I will gradually add repetitions and sets as the time goes by. For example, with a hill repeat session, which I'd consider a high intensity interval training session, I might start with 6 repeats at the start of the block and work towards 15. I might also progressively put more pressure on the cranks as the week goes by. I'd add in some variability with some mini sprints, out of the saddle, in the saddle, higher cadence, lower cadence, etc. And the final one is tying everything together in a structured approach. I don't know about you, but many people find it difficult to follow a high intensity structured program for longer than 12 to 16 weeks. And to be honest, provided you've got good aerobic conditioning, 12 to 16 weeks is a good amount of time to be able to take your cycling performance to a peak level. So here's some things you want to keep in mind. And let's use this example over 12 weeks, but you could just utilize this as a framework in your general training. Start with an easier week to test your FTP. Benchmark yourself. Slowly build in your high intensity interval training aligned to your target event goals, separated wisely throughout the week. Ensure you keep it fun and add a weekly bunch or social ride on the weekend or during weekdays. Have a rest week every 3rd, 4th or 5th week. During each rest week, alternate between an FTP test and a benchmark climb to see how you're progressing. As you start progressing your training, you want to start replicating your target goal, whether that be a bunch ride, a race or event. You want to replicate those conditions in training. Now, if you're actually targeting an event, a race or a fondo, etc., you want to place, say, your 12 weeks of training so that 3 weeks out from the event, you have your big, juicy week where you're going to have a lot of fatigue. You're going to progressively work towards this week as well. Then you have a rest week 2 weeks out, and then the week leading into the event, you want to do some short, sharp, high-intensity interval training stuff, maybe 2 sessions, so you're prepared for event day. Now, the things that I've shared with you in this video, the 5 things, you want to think about them in a way that best suits your riding schedule or regime, because you want to keep the rides that you love to do. So if you can tweak and change a few things that you're doing, thinking about these 5 key strategies, then you're going to take your cycling performance to the next level.